gang, this is Tom Kofer, HeavyMetalHog.com, and with me today is Lionel Blanc, the great drummer from the great band Sideburn. Lionel, my old friend, welcome.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Now, I say old friends because we go back a little bit. We cross paths by MySpace a little while back, and I was so impressed with your honest and pure rock and roll that I was inspired to do a little bit of writing for you guys, and that was prior to your last album, Cherry Red, through which the magic of today's media, that album became quite a global sensation, and here we are today, right on the verge of the release of your new album, Jail, which I'm sure is going to continue things in the positive direction that you're enjoying. And before we dive into Jail, tell us, for those who don't know, about what's been going on with Sideburn over the past couple of years.
Well, you know, we were really happy about the result of Cherry Red, and we had some great feedbacks from all around the world. And the fact that we decided to sell it on our own, we did all the work as a label for Cherry Red, because the previous album we had really bad problems. We had a company in Germany, but they didn't do anything. So when we started to work on Cherry Red, we decided that we will do everything on our own. And the results has been pretty good. And so we did a couple of naturally concerts, because our music we play to we do recording to play live, and after such a good result, we thought that we should work on a new one. And it didn't talk normally between Gasoline and Cherry Red was quite almost 3 years, but now between Cherry Red and Jail took less than 2 years, and I think now with Boris, the guitar player who joined the band in 2005, we have the right team to keep going in.
Now, a couple of things that kind of transpired since Cherry Red. You were featured on the American television series 24. Your song 6 Feet Under appeared on that television show. How did that come about?
Well, it's we've been in touch with a company based in Los Angeles who found us on the website cdbaby.com, and they're looking for like unsigned bands and to pitch their music in some trailers or TV shows or movies. And this guy contacted us probably 2-3 years ago, and he really liked our music. He thought the production was really professional, and it was really in the AC/DC type of music. And he tried to pitch us several times, but never really worked out, except for that one, and that was a good pick, I think.
And also, in that time, you, Sideburn, also appeared on the latest Rock Band 3, the gaming arena. How did that come about?
We've been in contact with someone also in the U.S. who mentioned that we should contact a person that is working, on the project of Rock Band and picking up bands and things like that. And he said that with the quality of our music, there should be no problem to be in the game. And we contacted the guy, and he called us immediately and said, "Well, I really love it, and send me one song, and we'll make it happen." And that's how it started. And now we have also another song from the album Jail. We picked up the song Live to Rock. Is also featured. You can go on the Rock Band 3 platform and have a chance to play that song also.
Now, as far as, just briefly on this, it seems that a lot of musicians, guitar players, drummers who are starting out, it seems like they kind of gravitate toward the rock band, the gaming format. How do you see that as, kind of a modern springboard for kids, young adults who are just starting to play? Are you guys in tune with that?
Well, I think, it will, if it can give the young kids the really, can how to say that? Find the right English word. The little touch, they will say, okay, let's pick up a guitar and play it for real.
Right.
And change from a plastic guitar with 7 buttons and to switch to a real guitar. I think it's good. More people will play the instrument, the better it is, I think.
Now, since Cherry Red and you appeared on 24 and Rock Band 3, have you found an increase in exposure in the American market?
Yes, we can see that more because we can see the sales from iTunes growing up, and so that's also, unfortunately, I will say, because I'm a CD fan, digital is gaining some market worldwide, and so more and more people will buy, instead of a real CD, will go for the digital thing, and we can see on the numbers, and it's growing. It's getting really actually, it's pretty impressive how iTunes can. We've increased the sales drastically.
With the new album Jail, which naturally carries Sideburn's great tradition of good, solid rock and roll, and this album from start to finish, not surprisingly, it's really a great, complete album. Now, you guys are from Switzerland, and the band's history is very rich in that Swiss-European foundation from a production standpoint. Mm-hmm. The new album, surprisingly to many, features a very highly successful and celebrated American producer named Beau Hill, who has worked with the likes of Rat, Warrant, Alice Cooper, Twisted Sister, Steve Stevens, the late Gary Moore, on and on. How did you guys get involved with Beau?
Well, it's when we decided to work on the new album, I told the guy that it should be maybe time to do things differently. We've been working with the same producer for almost 5 albums now, and we were at the point where we could almost know what he will tell us later. When we were composing, we had already say, oh, he will tell us that we should, double the chorus or things like that. So I thought that there were no magic anymore, and so I told him, why don't we try to challenge ourselves and do things differently? And I think that let's try to contact some name. And I think I went at a rock party once, and they played Lay It Down from Invasion of Your Privacy from Rat, and the sound is great, the song is great, and I think the next day I went on my CD collection and took this album, check out Beau Hill, and then right away went on MySpace and found that he had a page, and I contacted him and say, will you be okay to work with Sideburn? It could be really surprising, because that's right, that it's not the type of music we play is not what he did before. That's right. We also contacted Mike Fraser in Canada. Right. He was also okay to do it, but Mike is a sound engineer. He's not a producer. So on top of that, he told us, well, you need to find a producer, and Mike has doesn't have his own studio. So on top of the price for the price he was giving us for the mix, he had to rent a studio, and it was too much money.
Right.
But the two guys said yes. So that was it was very good for our ego.
Okay. Well, now from the list of artists that I mentioned who Bo has worked with in the past, one might get the impression that Bo gears things towards somewhat of a polished American heavy metal hard rock sound. Now, given that Sideburn has found its way into the American market through what we were talking about before, TV, gaming, in addition to the traditional format, CDs, albums, is this Americanization, if that's even a real word, one of the goals with Jail?
Well, actually, I don't think so, because what could be even more surprising is that when I contacted Bo the first time on the telephone, I asked him, I told him right away, I said, we really like everything you did, because we've checked what you did recently, all the old stuff, everything sounds good. But we would like a different sound at what you did in the past. And we told us, is it okay for you to do it, or do you mix the way you want, and then we have to say, yeah, okay. And he right away told us that as long as we will not be happy, he will keep on working on it. So that was exactly what I wanted to hear. And when you check out Jail, we have actually a sound totally different that I think he never did anything like that. And we were really happy. It sounds really live. There's not so much compression, no triggers, and it's really fresh and live. We really love it.
It seems like, and I don't know if this is an evolutionary thing or the maturing of the band, but there are some really great standout performances individually on this album. For instance, Roland's vocals sound very powerful, even passionate from a delivery standpoint, but yet he seems totally relaxed. It kind of reminds me, Roland's vocals, a little bit of Bon Scott in the Highway to Hell era, where he seemed at that point to have reached a pinnacle artistically. Do you think that is the case with Roland on that?
You're totally right. And part of this is because of Bo, because Bo came to Switzerland and recorded Roland vocals. And when he started, because Roland put a lot of pressure on himself before to do the recording. So he really practiced a lot. He wanted to make sure that when he will arrive at the studio, he will have the correct voice. And I think one of the first thing he told Bo is that, we have only 5 days to do the recording. If we have to do a 6th or the 7th one, I don't know. And Bo told him right away, I'm here to make sure you're comfortable. I've listened to what you did in the past, and I'm sure that 5 days will be really enough. And I think that relieves this kind of stress that he had before the start. And Bo really told me several times that, first of all, he really loved Roland's voice. And that, he was singing almost every time, just 3 times, and that was it.
Speaking of this album and, the great feel that there is to the album, as usual, there's a great separation between Boris and Fred's guitars. They complement each other, just just the way that a two-guitar band should. It doesn't sound like one guitar. It sounds like, that orchestral setup the two guitar players really should have. Now, Boris's lead playing, really, to me, there are some parts that really stand out. He's really, talking with his inspirational playing. It sounds like he's even possessed you might say. And, of course, Boris, as you mentioned, has been with the band now for around 6 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you think that the fact that he has been, now this is only his second album with you, but he's been in the family for 6 years, do you think that fact lends to, a really great performance on his part?
Yeah, well, definitely. He's the kind of guy needs to be. He's a fantastic musician. We keep saying to me, but you always think that he's not as good as some other, but he's definitely really good. And I think now he's getting the enough confidence to make it happen. I think it's all a matter of confidence. And he feel good in the band. It took him a while to when you arrive in a band, you're the new kid. It's always a little difficult. And now I think we listened to what he had to say. He was really involved in a lot of things in the recording of the album. He was there during the 2 days as I did the recording of the drums. He was there behind Michel to do the bass. So he was really into it as well as he's playing. So it's probably explain why he did such a great job on the new album.
Now you, my friend, your playing is very, very fluent, very, tasty, you say from a musician standpoint. And for my money, the best compliment you can give a drummer is the snare hand is always there, because it's that snare hand, that left beat from which all things come. And you really do some cool stuff around that, keeping the beat established. Now, I know that we often perform with an inspiration from who we're listening to at a certain time. Was there a particular driving influence for you from a drumming standpoint during the recording of Jail?
No, honestly, no. I'm inspired by the music. It's that's always been I've learned drums by myself. I always played with the music I liked. You put the headphone and you play with the band that you like. So you're always playing with better musician that you are. So I think it's one of the best practice you can do as a drummer or maybe also guitar player, playing with CD. And we all get older and probably just go and play for the music. That's all it counts. Doesn't matter if you could play fast or it's not a matter of technical technique. It's a matter of as you said, of taste and play for the music. I cannot start to solo in the middle of AC/DC type of song. Doesn't make sense. And I try to find the right thing to play. It's all about dynamic. This music is all about dynamic. It's not about technique. It's about dynamic, because the only thing you can do as a drummer on most of those beats, it's play the dynamic with the hi-hat, and maybe throw a couple of ghost notes to make the sound to breath a little bit more. But I think the key when you start to play like Field Rut, for example, is hi-hat, because that's what makes the music swing or not. And, which I try.
More than anything, to have the great band behind you, as you said, and the music being there, and both of those are the case with Sideburn and this album. I mean, all the pieces are just really in place. And on that note, talk a little bit about some of the music that's on Jail. There are some songs from the angle of arrangement and melody. They might kind of fit into a rock radio format. one song that really impresses me, and which I think should be the first single, by the way, is One Night Stand, which has just a very, very catchy vibe to it. Do you see that with that particular song, One Night Stand?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Boris came with this riff, and he had he did with a drum machine, and he had just probably the intro, the verse, and a kind of chorus, and when we will listen to it, we thought it was interesting. So we tried, and initially we didn't think that we will make it. And when we started to play that song, it sounded good. And at the end, it's one of our favorites. But normally, that's the kind of song that we normally say, well, that's a filler. But it came out so great that we really like it. But it was not on purpose. We didn't thought, we're gonna do something a commercial song. No, we don't think that way.
I could see every one of these songs at some point or another, hearing it on the radio or somewhere else. I mean, it's just, the whole thing just has that completeness, like so many great albums of the past, like a Back in Black or an Appetite for Destruction. It just, any one of those songs could be heard any place at any time. Yeah. And, I mean, that, and on that note, I mean, you guys do make complete albums. I have never gotten the impression that you've had, 3 or 4 songs that you felt really strong about, and then you've built, just put an album together around it. It's always been like, we are going to make an album, and therefore you come out with something that you can put on and, for the next 45 minutes, listen to the whole thing and not feel like you have to skip around. It seems to me the band prides itself on, we're going to put out an album and we're going to have a whole album's worth of strong music. Do you think that's the case? Is that important to the band?
Yes, certainly. If you have listened to our past album, and I think since Gasoline, we started to build when we start recording and working on new song, we say, okay, let's try to have a certain type, like 3 or 4 basic groove, AC/DC kind of things. We need to have an up-tempo, like Rose Tattoo thing. We always, do 3, 4 or 5 like this, and build around to have, different type of tempos, different type of ambience, things like that. We were really happy about Cherry Red. Also, we cannot say that the album is constructed, but we thought that for the new album we should try to make the same type. You have like 2 or 3 up tempo, 3 or 4 mid tempo, maybe one heavier one, and we work on 16 ideas, and then we try to put the album together, and we say, oh, maybe we need an extra. And for example, I think there's 2 songs that we did really quickly, like Good Boy and Kiss of Death. They were made really quickly. We thought that we needed one more up-tempo, and we were not happy about the one we had. We did as a demo, and we composed it really quickly, and it came out great. You never know. That's the thing. In music, you can we always have 1 or 2 songs we don't really like in an album, and the first thing and you see a fan, and the first thing he tells you is it's the best song of the album. So it's hard to say which one is good or which one is better. It's just a matter of taste.
Now, a couple of other songs on Jail. One tune which really strikes me as unique is Longbeard and Boogie. Because when that song first came on, it started coming through my speakers, I thought, you know, this thing almost has like a disco beat. You know, I mean, it was not disco in the sense of cheesy disco, but just very groove, dancey kind of thing. And then, you know, the song evolved. You know, it went on a bit, and you know, it is from start to finish. I mean, it is kind of that grooving song. What really did you have in mind when you were putting that one together?
Well, it's a damn good question. Because the way we work now, since Boris joined the band, is normally it's Boris, the guitar lead guitar player, Fred, the rhythm guitar player, and Roland. They just bring like riffs, and sometimes they bring a CD with the 10 or 12 riffs. We listen to them and all the band and say, oh, maybe the third one was cool. The fourth one, is not original, or we don't like it, and then we start to jam. And the way we started on that one, we had this guitar riff, and naturally it was he did it with just a drum machine, like four on the floor. So it was totally different. And we started to jam, and I don't remember how I came out with this groove. And pretty quickly we came out with something pretty interesting. And the idea of the title of this song, it was an idea of me that I had. Sometime when I drive in my car, I write down some cool name of songs that I think should be interesting. So I had a list of 15, and a title that could be used. And Roland liked. We were working on that song, and he took this list, and it sounded great, and it started to do the lyrics around ZZ Top, and this is really this song is really about ZZ Top music, and I think it's a really cool one.
That brings me to another impression that I have of this song. I think it is destined to be a classic dancer's choice at strip clubs. That's kind of the vibe I got on this, because, I mean, it grooves so much, and now that you mentioned ZZ Top, I'm like, well, there are a couple of ZZ Top songs that do kind of fall into that, party atmosphere, and and I say that with all due respect to everybody concerned, because you think about, what has been termed as classic dancers music of the past. You've got Pour Some Sugar on Me, you've got You Shook Me All Night Long, and now Longbeard and Boogie. So you're in with some pretty good company there on the dance circuit. So I may hear some of my friends coming back from these establishments to say, "Hey, I heard your buddies playing at the strip club last week," because I naturally wouldn't know anything about that. So a lot of bands in the past have enjoyed huge success, but they never got past being pigeonholed with a certain sound or style. And I know you guys traditionally and very proudly have been very upfront and proudly displayed your influences. AC/DC, Rose Tattoo, Crocus, even Creedence Clearwater. I know that you guys have been upfront about really digging CCR. Now, Jail, from my perspective, finds you guys really solidifying, for lack of a better term, your identity. Has the band been striving really to have that identity where someone can put your records on and say, oh, that's Sideburn? Do you think that has been a goal of the band?
Well, I think we try. We when we compose, I think, and you know what we did in the past. So normally, people who are into this kind of music will find out that what we're doing now, it's not only a rough copy of AC/DC or Rose Tattoo. It's Sideburn's music. We don't think anymore. Say, okay, let's do the next. Let's do Back in Black, but
Right.
but our way. That's not the way it works for us, at least. And it's sometimes what it's still frustrating because now the fact we have a new the German label Metal Heaven that's doing all the promotion in Europe. We're getting a lot of more press, and there's still some people that never heard about the band, and when they listen to it, they think that we just AC/DC's clown, and so. But if you go into the music, you can't say that. I mean, you've never listened to AC/DC, or you didn't listen well enough our music. So we know that if we say that we are proud to have AC/DC, that type of music in our germs, let's say. I don't know how to say it exactly, but people will tell us that we are just a copycat, but you know, as you are also a musician yourself, that you can't say that. I don't think we have. We probably, out of the 12 songs, probably have 2 songs that could be compared to AC/DC kind of music, because of the guitar player, the rhythm guitar and things like that. But you know, with Roland is not trying to copy Bon Scott, or you know, it's his own voice. Like our good friends from Crocus, they've always been compared to AC/DC, but Crocus have their own thing. They just did one album that was really comparable to AC/DC. Worked on one voice at a time, but the Mark Storaci's voice is so close to Bon Scott that everybody will say, okay, Crocus is also it's an AC/DC copy, and it's definitely not the case.
No,
but it's a risk. It's a risk. It's hard to AC/DC's team seems to be so untouchable that we know that sometimes it's hard.
But this album, what I'm getting at on this is, whereas you may recognize, certain influences or styles, I think that this has just, continued what I've seen as, taking a sound and making it your own. And I think, this time around, whereas the influences, are going to be in there, I mean, you can't get around that.
Sure.
This time around, it's just like, hey, that really, sounds, while yet maybe still familiar, it really sounds like their sound. And I think, that's what I'm hearing on this is, it's almost like the combination of things over the past. And of course, with the band being together now for as long as it has, it just seems like the parts are falling into place. And
that's
like I said, a lot of bands have been around for 20 years, 25 years, and yet they still never got past that. They're just a copy of so and so, and I mean, and it takes, it takes that dedication and that togetherness, and I just think this time it's just really, wow, that is their sound, and I think it's been great tracking you guys over the years and across the albums and stuff, and then this comes out and it's just really, you're a good, powerful, individual, unique voice.
Yeah, well, so that could be, yes, considered definitely as a great compliment. So that's so well, yeah, that's what we try. So when we're getting this kind of feedback, we can only say thank you.
Okay. Now you mentioned that Metal Heaven is now your distributor. Is that am I right on that?
we did a contract for Europe and Japan, and for Switzerland we keep we do things ourselves. This means we do the work like a label. We sell the CD to a distributor, and in the U.S. We'll keep working, have the album available on CD Baby. We will release it a little later for the hard copy. The CD copy in the U.S. Should be available probably beginning of May, but the digital version will be available like the 1st of March worldwide. So we try to protect the Metal Heaven and not put the album on cdbaby.com at the same time as the release in Europe. That's why we did that.
So the new album, the release date is February 25th, Jail. For those of you who have been fans in the past, you will definitely not be disappointed. This is, as they have said in the past, all killer and no filler. You can visit Sideburn at their website, sideburn.ch. And from there, you can visit them on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, all of the usual outlets I suppose you guys have. Thank you a lot, Lionel. It's been great talking to you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom, and we'll hope to talk to you soon. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks a lot.